Revenge with Karen.
You're the reason we finally hit 99% on-time deliveries, my junior analyst beamed, setting down a slice of grocery store cake with my name spelled wrong in blue icing. Karen, you're a machine. I smiled, tight-lipped. I didn't have the heart to tell her it was my fourth congratulations cake this year, and they all tasted like freezer burn and corporate indifference. 12 years. That's how long I'd been with Riverton Logistics. 12 years of spreadsheets, freight audits, contract renegotiations, and fixing everyone else's mess with a red pen and a calm voice. I wasn't flashy. I didn't post boss babe quotes or do inspirational whiteboard sessions. I wore flats. I answered emails. And I made sure the engine under our supply chain purred like a kitten on antihistamines. The VPs didn't always understand my systems, but they damn sure leaned on them. Just finished a quarter with the lowest complaint rate in company history. And my department? #1 in internal compliance for the 5th year running. I'd mentored 6 women into manager roles over the past 2 years, and my direct reports, they didn't just meet targets, they made them look easy, which is why I had a sixth sense something was coming. In corporate, a quiet month isn't peace, it's the inhale before the plunge. But hey, before this story starts rolling downhill like a flaming printer cart, do me a quick favor, tap that like and subscribe. It keeps this little corner of internet justice running and motivates the team who helps bring you these true tales of corporate chaos. Now, back to Karen. I was in the zone, fully. Coffee at 8:07. Status report review at 9 o'clock. Stand up with ops by 10. Weekly mentorship chat with Marissa by 2. System worked because I worked it, without cutting corners, without crying foul, without waiting for a handout. I'd become the human version of a well-oiled machine. Steady, predictable, boring maybe, but in a world of LinkedIn peacocks and Slack sycophants, I liked boring. Boring didn't get people fired. Boring didn't make headlines. Boring got packages from Cleveland to Des Moines on time, with no damaged inventory and clean chain of custody, which is why I didn't even flinch when the email came in. Subject line, new leadership integration, Monday meet and greet. That's HR code for someone's nephew just got hired. I clicked it open with the same disinterest I reserve for spam about step counters or casual Fridays. The body read, please join us in welcoming Adam Reynolds, who will be joining logistics optimization as a co-lead. Adam brings with him fresh ideas from the innovation sector and will be partnering with Karen Hughes to further streamline operations. I blinked. Partnering? They were making him my equal, a man I'd never met, with zero logistics experience. Brought in to innovate a system I'd built over a decade, the same system that had just won us an industry award. I opened Adam's LinkedIn while finishing my black coffee. There it was, the usual cocktail of nonsense. Thought leader, disruptive mindset, passionate about operational synergy. No actual companies listed, just consulting roles and a 2-year gap labeled founder sabbatical. His profile picture had him in a turtleneck, staring into the middle distance like he just invented shipping containers. I minimized the window and stared at the blinking cursor in my reply box. I typed one word, noted, then hit send. See, I wasn't mad yet, just mildly amused. I'd seen this before. Every few years someone's son, nephew, or tennis buddy got parachuted into a management role with buzzwords and a bad haircut. Most of them were gone in 6 months, bored, overwhelmed, or quietly shuffled out after pursuing other opportunities. But Adam, he was a new flavor of problem. I didn't know it yet, but this guy wasn't just underqualified. He wasn't just arrogant. He was dangerous. And what he'd trigger wouldn't just be petty turf wars or bad meetings. It would be a full-scale unraveling. One that started with him smiling in HR and ended with legal whispering, get the CEO. Now, but we're not there yet. We're still in the comfort zone, where Karen runs the show, keeps her cool, and believes foolishly that the system protects the people who follow the rules. It doesn't. The first time Adam walked into the logistics war room, he was 15 minutes late and chewing on a protein bar like it was a performance. Didn't apologize. Just sauntered in, flopped into the ergonomic chair I'd personally requisitioned, and announced, don't worry, guys, the fun's here now. No one laughed. Not even Trina, who once giggled when a courier dropped a box of branded mugs on his own foot. That silence should have told him something. But Adam wasn't the type to hear silence. He just filled it with louder nonsense. This place is running on legacy fumes, he said during his first team huddle. She scheduled right over our monthly client audit review. We need to blow up the process, start fresh. Think like a startup. What if deliveries weren't the product, but the experience? I stared at him. Our clients are hospitals, Adam. They want their pallets of PPE delivered on time, not serenaded. He blinked. Okay, but let's not get stuck in old paradigms. Old paradigms. That was his favorite phrase. He said it like it gave him permission to ignore data, deadlines, and damn near every operational best practice we had. He would scribble ideas on the whiteboard like Truck Utopia and Package Passion Funnel, while I quietly reviewed temperature logs from our vaccine shipments. The real kicker: the junior team was watching. I'd spent years mentoring these women, teaching them how to run a clean operation, how to speak with clarity, to not get steamrolled by charisma in a suit. And now they were watching this oversized toddler try to reinvent logistics with buzzwords and vibes. Then came the Slack messages. First, it was harmless, tagging junior analysts with things like eyes big changes coming eyes or Monday brainstorm, wear sneakers, with zero calendar invites or context. Then it got slimy. He slid into team channels with stuff like, Emily, that presentation was fire, fire, fire. Must kill it in heels. Or Marissa, you've got a vibe I really respect. We should collab one soon. I sat in my office watching the pings pile up like moldy receipts in a junk drawer, and I felt something tighten behind my ribs. Not rage, not yet, but that quiet click of an old gear coming online. The one labeled, we're documenting this. I made a private folder on my drive, named it something innocuous, Q4 process adjustments. Inside, started collecting things. Screenshots, meeting recaps, audio transcriptions of planning calls where Adam talked over women with decades more experience. Every time he ignored a compliance note, I logged it. Every time he redirected credit for a fix I made note of the date, the Slack thread, the outcome. HR wouldn't care, not yet. Not when Adam was still shiny and new and giving his little synergy pep talks during exec calls. But I wasn't building a complaint. I was building a record. Because here's the thing, Adam didn't just expect to be liked, he expected deference. And when I corrected him politely in front of the team about a routing plan that would have sent 3 trucks through a flood zone, he went quiet. Not embarrassed, not apologetic, just still, like a lion blinking at a noise in the brush. Later that day, he cornered me near the break room, all fake smiles and Red Bull breath. Hey, Karen, he said, drawing out the vowels like we were at a bar. About earlier, you kinda undercut me in front of the team. Makes it hard to lead, you know? I didn't flinch. I corrected a routing error. You almost sent perishables through Route 16 during a state of emergency. Yeah, but tone matters. Facts matter more, he chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Just try to meet me halfway next time, okay? We're partners now. Partners. I was supposed to help him steer the ship while he drilled holes in the hull for fun. That night, I added a new subfolder, Adam Performance Threads. I wasn't paranoid, I was practiced. There's a difference. And while Adam was busy planning his logistics disruption hackathon and asking interns if they wanted to grab a post-sync kombucha, I was quietly preparing for something else entirely. The moment the system turned. The moment someone, probably him, would push it too far, I'd have every receipt labeled, time-stamped, and ready. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. That's the part that still sours in my gut, the fact that I tried. I offered the olive branch. I put my irritation in a manila folder labeled Let It Go and tried to coach him like I would any junior manager. Because I thought maybe, he just didn't know better. Maybe his arrogance was ignorance in disguise. So one Friday morning, over lukewarm coffee in the break room, said, Hey Adam, do you have 10 minutes to look over the freight carrier bid sheets with me? There are a few things I can walk you through that'll help frame Monday's proposal. He leaned back against the counter like he was posing for calendar, dudes of disruption. Look, Karen, I appreciate the help, but I've got my own framework I'm testing. I'm taking us in a different direction. I didn't blink. Different from the carrier who's saving us $190K a year. Sipped his protein shake and smiled. Exactly. We're optimizing for vibes, not just numbers. I excused myself before I said something regrettable. Like vibes don't deliver stents to cardiac units, you sentient hair gel, but fine. He didn't want mentorship, he'd learn the hard way. I had bigger things to worry about. Until HR scheduled a team wellness pulse check. That's when I knew. It always starts with soft words. Climate, engagement, pulse. What it really means is someone upstairs wants dirt. And when they don't have dirt, they dig until they can plant a seed. I got the calendar invite from Helena in HR, subject line, drop-in check-ins, no action needed, which is corporate speak for start sweating. One by one, my team filed into conference rooms with Helena, 20 minutes each. No notes allowed, no transcripts provided, just a casual chat. After the third session, Rena found me in the stairwell, our unspoken safe zone where the walls didn't have ears. They asked me if you ever raise your voice, she whispered. I blinked. Have you ever seen me raise my voice? She looked genuinely sad. They didn't care about my answer. 2 days later, I walked past Adam's office and saw him grinning at Helena. She laughed at something he said and touched his shoulder. That was the moment the coil in my chest tightened into something sharp. Later that week, Marissa, my sharpest analyst, lingered after our 1-1. Karen, she said quietly, they're looking for a reason. I didn't ask who they were, I already knew. Adam had decided that my refusal to clap for his incompetence was a threat. And in a company like ours, threat perception was more actionable than actual behavior. If someone feels undermined, that's grounds for culture review. So I did what any woman who's been in the corporate trenches for over a decade does. I pulled back. No more slack corrections. No more nudging him during meetings when he fumbled acronyms or confused cost centers with invoice codes. I let him fall flat, let the team see it. I spoke only when spoken to. I gave him no ammo, but no shield either. When clients asked for me, I rerouted the requests. When his proposals tanked, I didn't offer to clean them up. And when he skipped the compliance seminar, again, I didn't remind him. I became invisible, professional, polite, but impossible to pin. And still, the temperature kept rising. Helena sent a follow-up email titled, "Appreciate your leadership. Let's sync next week." There was no subject line I trusted less. So I did what I always do when the air starts to shift. I archived everything, every Slack thread, every calendar conflict, every meeting where I was sidelined, every email that implied I was intimidating or abrasive for speaking in bullet points instead of emojis. I backed it all up to a secure drive and tucked it away like a fire extinguisher behind glass. Just in case. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning survival, because I've seen what happens when women make noise in places built to silence them. You don't win by being loud. You win by being undeniable. And Adam, he was about to make that part easy. Email came in at 4:42 p.m. on a Thursday. Subject line, HR touchpoint, tomorrow 8:15 a.m. No body text, just a Google Calendar invite. No context, no bullet points, just me, a box labeled Conference 3B, and the implied stench of something rotten. I didn't sleep that night, not out of fear, out of clarity. The kind that hits when all the puzzle pieces finally fall into place and spell out something filthy. 8:14, I walked into the conference room and saw Helena from HR seated on the left. And to her right, wearing a quarter zip and that smug frat boy on a cruise smirk, was Adam. He didn't look nervous. He looked entertained, like he was about to watch a TikTok video he made about ruining someone's career go viral. Karen, Helena began, motioning to the seat across from them. Thanks for coming. This is just an informal conversation about recent team dynamics. I sat, smiled, said nothing. Helena took a breath like she was about to deliver bad news she'd practiced in the mirror. We've received concerns from a colleague about a pattern of behavior that may be contributing to a hostile environment. I looked at Adam. He was biting the inside of his cheek, pretending to look concerned. It didn't work. Specifically, she continued, language that could be construed as belittling or undermining. My eyebrow ticked upward. Belittling, Adam leaned forward. Karen, it's not personal, but some of the ways you've corrected me in meetings, it's like you're trying to make me look dumb. It's been hard to lead effectively when I feel constantly diminished. That's when Helena dropped the line. You made him feel inferior. That's harassment. Not inappropriate tone, not constructive feedback, harassment. A word with weight, word that sticks to your record like gum under a church pew. A word that HR loves to weaponize when it's convenient. I blinked. Once. Not from shock, from the sheer effort it took not to laugh. Do you have examples? I asked, voice flat. We'd rather keep this conversational, Helena replied quickly, the way HR always does when they have nothing solid and everything strategic. Adam shrugged. I mean, it's a vibe, the way you look at me when I'm presenting. Like I'm wasting your time. I leaned back, looked him dead in the eye. You are wasting my time. Helena coughed. Karen, but I was already standing. No yelling, no breakdown. Just the same composure I'd used to negotiate vendor contracts and de-escalate warehouse meltdowns. I reached into my blazer, pulled out my badge, and set it gently on the table. If I'm making someone feel inferior by doing my job correctly, I said, then maybe the problem isn't me. Adam looked briefly unsure. the flicker of a man who just realized the grenade he pulled might not land where he thought it would. Helena cleared her throat. We're not asking for a resignation, Karen. This is simply I held up my hand. I'm not resigning, I said. I'm removing myself from a situation you've already decided the outcome of. I walked out. Past the intern who saw me get her promoted. Past the operations analyst who once told me I was the reason she didn't quit during inventory season. Past the glass walls of a company that once called me mission critical in a deck to investors. Quiet rage is colder than fury. It doesn't shout, it calculates. By the time I reached the parking lot, I'd already replayed the meeting 3 times in my head. Their words, my silence, Adam's smile. He thought this was the kill shot. He thought I'd slink away. Dignity cracked, maybe cry in the car, maybe beg for a reputation-safe exit package. He had no idea what I'd already archived, what I'd already tagged, what policies I'd already reviewed, what clause I knew he'd violated 2 months ago and never retracted. I wasn't walking away. I was clearing the stage, letting the spotlight swing just a little further left, so when the curtain dropped, it would land on him. That night, I didn't pour wine, didn't scream into a throw pillow. I didn't call a friend or post a cryptic quote about betrayal on Facebook. I opened my laptop. The light stayed off. Just the blue glow of the screen and the low hum of a house that hadn't seen this side of me in years. Not since the last reorg. Not since the guy before Adam tried to fudge a safety audit and thought I wouldn't notice. The folder, Q4 process adjustments, had grown fat. Screenshots, message threads, time-stamped Slack pings. Nothing dramatic, nothing even aggressive. Just a slow, methodical record of a man out of his depth and the system that let him flail unchecked. I started forwarding everything to a private email I'd created months ago under a neutral name. Not Gmail, not traceable to my name. I wasn't planning a lawsuit. I was building a file, a truth file. Each thread I attached had a title. Flirt 2.16.23, routing error 3.04.23, pulse check concerns 3.22.23, credit claim 4.07.23, Slack you kill it in heels 4.10.23. I attached them all. Hit send. Watch the progress bar crawl like molasses. Then I opened our internal policy portal. Everton had quietly rolled out a new code of conduct addendum last quarter. Most folks clicked agree without reading it. I didn't. I read everything. Especially the legal memos, those dense, footnoted PDFs most managers ignored. And there it was. Policy Revision 12.4.3, Internal Harassment Review Clauses. In instances where claims are processed without neutral arbitration, one or more involved parties hold hierarchical influence or familial relation to executive leadership, liability shall extend to approving HR representatives and co-signing department heads. Translation: if HR screws up while protecting the CEO's idiot son, it doesn't just stain a file. It opens them up to shared legal exposure. Financial, ethical, regulatory. And guess who signed the HR confirmation of policy understanding? Lena and Adam on the same day. I cross-referenced the signatures in the metadata. I could have smiled, but it wasn't time yet. I clicked open one of the more innocuous Slack threads, just to double-check. That's when I saw it. March 3rd, 11:17 a.m. Adam had replied to a workflow note I'd posted in our logistics channel, the boring kind about seasonal rerouting, with a thumbs-up emoji. Attached to his reply, file labeled HR Flag Emily Behavior Report Confidential PDF. It took a second to load. But when it did, my stomach didn't flip. My breath didn't catch. I just leaned forward. He'd attached the wrong file. A confidential HR document about a junior analyst. Included full name, manager notes, time-stamped incident descriptions, and a summary paragraph clearly marked private review, only not for team circulation. In Slack, public thread, dozens of eyes. No retraction, no follow-up. It had sat there for 2 months like a time bomb wearing khakis. That was the moment the strategy solidified, not just incompetence, not just ego, but a direct violation of multiple privacy statutes, an HR breach, a compliance nightmare. And thanks to the new clause, not just Adam's neck, but HR's, legal's. The entire chain that let this frat-drenched paperweight throw his weight around unchecked. Gloat. I didn't screenshot it with captions or hashtags. I copied the Slack link. I tagged the moment. I opened a new doc titled Clause 12.4.3 Trigger Preliminary, and then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I breathed. Not relief, not victory, readiness. The kind of breath you take before flipping a circuit breaker, before lighting a match, before giving a system the one little nudge it needs to fall apart under its own rot. Let Adam sleep soundly. Let Helena sip her Friday cappuccino like nothing's coming. The fuse was lit, and they were the ones holding the match. At 3:26 a.m., I logged into Riverton's compliance review portal, the one buried 3 clicks deep behind the HR dashboard, where incident reports go to die. Most people didn't know the flagging system existed. Fewer knew how to use it. It was built for legal, not managers. 12 years in logistics makes you fluent in every back hallway of the company's digital brain. I pulled up the Slack thread, the one with Adam's emoji response, the one with the confidential HR file sitting out in the open like a forgotten wallet on a bar stool. I hovered over the Tag Incident button and entered the clause manually. 12.4.3, liability trigger for mishandled claims involving executive family or HR oversight conflicts. It didn't even autocomplete. That's how rarely it was used. I added a brief note, neutral, surgical, review flagged, executive family involvement, shared liability possible. File, HR flag Emily behavior report confidential PDF attached publicly without authorization. No follow-up or retraction logged. No dramatic sign-off. No per my last email snark. I hit submit. The system didn't explode. No fireworks. No mission accomplished banner. Just a silent confirmation box, compliance review submitted, alert forwarded to legal. That was the trigger. I shut the laptop, folded my hands, sat in the dark. I didn't feel righteous. I didn't feel victorious. I felt quiet. It's a strange thing. Moment when you stop waiting for fairness to show up and start becoming the consequence yourself. At 4:19 a.m., miles away, in a gated suburb where the lights never flicker and the lawns trim themselves, the company's internal counsel, a man named Don Sayer, got an automated text on his work phone. Compliance flag, urgent policy conflict. Incident ID 22-741C. He ignored it at first, rolled over, thought it was another late-night drama about PTO disputes or an anonymous note about coffee theft. Then the second ping came. Priority level, red. A conflict flag involving clause 12.4.3 didn't just go to legal. It triggered an auto queue for audit readiness, something that affects quarterly disclosures. Something that, if unaddressed, could count as willful negligence. Don rubbed his eyes, pulled on a hoodie, fired up the secure laptop on his kitchen island. The screen blinked awake to a single-line summary. Allegation of HR mishandling in context of executive family member. Documented privacy breach. Prior claim closed without arbitration. He swore under his breath, pulled the case file. My name popped up first, then Adam's, then Helena's, then the attached file. And that's when, according to metadata logs I'd later read for fun, Don stopped scrolling. Didn't call HR. He didn't email Adam. He clicked open the incident thread, read the Slack transcript, cross-referenced it against the policy PDF, and froze for 5 solid minutes. Then, at 4:52 a.m., he manually elevated the case to executive tier review, something that requires CFO visibility by default. It was still dark out. HR was asleep. Adam was probably drooling into his pillow, dreaming of synergy and morning smoothies. Helena's Outlook wouldn't start pinging for another 2 hours, but deep in the server stack, the system had already moved. Clause 12.4.3 had been activated, and unlike most things in corporate policy, this clause had teeth. It didn't rely on office politics. It relied on signatures. And the ones sitting at the bottom of that policy, Adam Reynolds, Helena Moore, and the director of compliance himself. I didn't call anyone. I didn't go back to sleep. I just sat in the silence, not angry, not hopeful, just ready. Let them read it, let them feel it, because the fuse was lit. The flame was crawling, slow and invisible, and by the time they smelled smoke, it'd be too late to name the source. I wasn't the fire. I was the match they dropped on themselves. The room was beige. Of course it was. Beige walls, beige carpet, beige conference table polished to a nervous sheen. Kind of room where decisions were made by people who wanted plausible deniability and soft lighting. No windows. Just recycled air and recycled excuses. Don Sayer, company counsel, insomnia survivor, and now owner of the most stressful 47-page PDF in Riverton's recent memory, sat at the head of the table, flipping through the printed file like it was a bomb manual. To his left, Linda from compliance, and tapping out a Morse code of corporate dread. To his right, Lisa from risk, already whispering numbers, liability estimates, PR exposure, potential class action frameworks. The binder sat open in front of them, printed at dawn, flagged with post-its in angry colors. Yellow for policy infractions, orange for breach concerns, red for Adam. The Slack thread was stapled chronologically, each page a casual confession. She's impossible to work with, total ice queen. If she doesn't want feedback, maybe she should try smiling. Emily's got real potential. I mean, you've seen her presentations, right? Fire, the heels comment, the HR file attachment, the emoji reaction to my compliance memo, with a gif of Leonardo DiCaprio raising a champagne glass. Don didn't speak for a full 3 minutes. Just read and read. Finally, he reached the page I'd flagged. Policy Clause 12.4.3, in the event that a harassment claim is adjudicated by individuals with personal or hierarchical conflict, familial or supervisory, and due process is bypassed or compromised, liability transfers to the signatory HR representative and the executive figure tied to the accused. There it was, in plain English, reviewed by outside counsel, approved by the board. Adam's signature sat underneath it like a fingerprint on a murder weapon. Dated, digitally verified. No wiggle room. Helena's name followed, right next to a timestamp showing she checked I have read and understood this clause just 6 weeks prior. Don closed the binder, exhaled. His eyes were tired, not from lack of sleep, from realizing he'd just stepped into a minefield with no exit plan. He turned to Linda, who closed the harassment case. Linda scrolled. Helena, no third-party review, no arbitration. Just a note, issue discussed, employee chose to exit voluntarily. Employee being me, not harasser, not victim, just employee. Don pushed the binder forward, get the CFO. Linda blinked, shouldn't we? No, Don said, voice flat, get the CFO. No, get the CEO. Now. Lisa paused. You think this is that serious? He looked at her like she'd asked if gravity still applied indoors. It's signed, it's documented, and it's activating. That word, activating, settled over the room like a fog, because the clause wasn't symbolic. It wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was a live wire. One that could drag down the exact people who had built their careers assuming nothing stuck to them. Don leaned back and pulled up his phone. Should we prepare a statement? Lisa asked. No, he said. We prepare a timeline. If this goes external, whistleblower, media, audit, only thing that saves us is who knew what and when. Across the city, I sat on my couch. Laptop closed, coffee untouched. I wasn't watching it unfold. I didn't need to because I knew the timing. I knew the protocols. I knew that by now, Don had read the clause, traced the thread, and realized what had been set in motion. And I knew that by the time the CEO opened his inbox, the subject line waiting for him would not be update or issue or employee concern. Would be, Clause 12.4.3 triggered executive review required immediate. And the fire that Adam lit, that Helena fanned, it wasn't mine to put out anymore. It was theirs to burn in. The CEO's footsteps hit the hallway like a drumline, each one angrier than the last. By the time he burst into the beige conference room, tie askew and jacket slung over one shoulder, his face was already the color of bad stock options. What is this witch hunt? He barked, voice booming off the acoustic panels. Someone explained to me why legal is flagging my son on a compliance clause no one's ever heard of. Don didn't stand, didn't flinch, just slid the binder across the table like it was a menu at a restaurant he didn't recommend. Start with page 12, he said, then the Slack transcripts. Then the file attachment. CEO opened the binder with the kind of exaggerated sigh men in power reserve for when they're forced to confront things they thought they could ignore. His eyes scanned the pages. His brow tightened. His mouth opened once, then closed. Why the hell is this even in the policy? You approved it last year, Don said quietly. Board minutes. April 12th. Your signatures on the addendum. We implemented it to protect the company after the Jordan case. The Jordan case was different. CEO snapped. No, Lisa said from legal. It wasn't. Just then, the door opened again, CFO Harris carrying his laptop like a defibrillator. He didn't sit. He just skimmed the flagged summary Don handed him, froze mid-scroll, and muttered, Jesus Christ. He looked up. You know what happens if this hits the auditors? You know what happens if this gets externalized before we self-report? The CEO shook his head, waving the binder like it might disappear if he shook it hard enough. It's a mistake, a misunderstanding. Karen's always been dramatic. Adam didn't mean anything by it. Intent is irrelevant, Don cut in. The policy doesn't care what he meant, it cares what he signed. What HR covered, what was ignored. Right on cue, Helena walked in, holding her phone like a crucifix. I just got the internal escalation. You all flagged Adam over a Slack joke. Don didn't speak, he just pointed at the binder. Helena flipped, she flipped fast. Come on, she's been bitter ever since the realignment. We didn't know she saved that chat. I stepped into the room, they all turned. I hadn't spoken to any of them since that morning in HR. I hadn't sent a follow-up, hadn't whined, hadn't leaked. But now I stepped through that beige threshold like I was walking into an execution chamber, only I wasn't the one tied to the chair. Helena's voice went shrill. Karen, you didn't tell us you were saving everything. I looked her dead in the face. You knew, I said, you just didn't care. No dramatics, no raised voice, just facts dropped like bricks. Don clicked his pen. She didn't leak anything. She didn't go to the board. She didn't run to outside counsel. She used our system. She followed our policy. She gamed the system, the CEO muttered. No, Harris corrected, deadpan. She understood it, better than any of us. They didn't know what to do with that, because I wasn't storming in with lawsuits and threats. I wasn't crying. I wasn't demanding justice or groveling for my job back. I was just standing there. And their system, the one they built to protect themselves, was the one putting them on the slab. CFO Harris closed his laptop slowly, the way people do when they're trying to delay the inevitable. There are 6 reportable violations here, 3 of them financial. If even one of these makes it to the quarterly review cycle without documentation, it's a governance breach. Automatic external audit, possibly SEC disclosure. The CEO rubbed his temples. She's blowing this out of proportion. She didn't blow anything, Don said. You let your son operate without oversight. HR mishandled a flagged claim involving a direct familial conflict, buried due process under nepotism and plausible deniability. Helena tried again. Karen, come on, you could have come to me. I said, for 12 years. Silence. And for the first time I saw something flicker behind Adam's father's eyes. Not remorse, not even shame. Fear, because this wasn't about Karen anymore. This was about what Karen represented, a woman who followed the rules better than the people who wrote them. And the rules were about to eat them alive. Resignation letter was exactly 1 page long. No flowery goodbye, no corporate gratitude, no bullet-pointed list of accomplishments. Just my name, my dates, and one final line. I do not seek settlement, silence, or compensation. I seek acknowledgement. Let the record reflect who knew and who chose to do nothing. I handed it to Don personally, because I wanted him to see it land. He read it once, lips tightening at the line about silence, nodded. He didn't ask me to reconsider. He didn't offer platitudes, just said, thank you, like it actually meant something. By noon, the board had been notified. By 2 p.m., the CEO had canceled all meetings for the day. By 3:45, Helena was placed on leave pending review, which in Riverton speak meant she'd be reassigned to a different company with a severance check and a fresh NDA. Adam didn't show up that day. His badge had been deactivated before lunch. I'm told he spent most of the afternoon texting Don and HR from his personal phone, trying to find out who sabotaged him. The irony that he was the one who attached the confidential HR file was apparently still lost on him. Or maybe not. Maybe he knew. Maybe that's why he panicked. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. They removed his name from all active project boards. His profile on the intranet was quietly set to pending update. And the last slide in the quarterly planning deck, the one where he'd put a stock photo of a rocket ship with Adam's initiative. Blastoff 2024 was gone. But the real moment came 3 days later when I got a ping from a former mentee. Check LinkedIn. The post was short. Corporate boilerplate, probably drafted by someone in comms with a law degree and a migraine. Effective immediately, Riverton Logistics will implement a comprehensive review of internal reporting processes. This follows an internal flag prompted by an anonymous whistleblower, whose commitment to policy integrity has inspired company-wide changes. We are grateful for the courage it takes to speak truth within systems not built to hear it. No names. Of course not. Anyone paying attention knew. That wasn't an apology, it was a surrender. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not a full grin, not a victory dance. Just the kind of smirk that creeps in when the air shifts and the weight you've been dragging behind you finally lets go. I didn't walk out with a box of things. I didn't do a farewell lunch. I didn't wave goodbye. I just left. Past the same front desk where I used to buzz Adam in because he'd forgotten his badge again. Past the HR posters that said respect, inclusion, accountability, in fonts so big they drowned out the truth. Past the faces of people who would never say what they knew but who saw everything. I walked out into the cold afternoon with nothing in my hands and everything I needed. They could keep their settlement. They could keep their empty apologies and their private damage control meetings. What I took with me wasn't money. It was the thing they feared most. Proof. Appreciate you sticking around, you wise old rebels. Smash that subscribe button, or this fossil might just cause another epic fiasco.